One of my biggest fears in life is my knees blowing up because I rode too much fixed gear. We've all heard the horror stories. Maybe you even know somebody that has had to quit fixed gear because their knees just couldn't take it anymore. Even though I've ridden my fixed gear with people who are twice my age, who have been riding fixed gear for longer than I've been alive, I still have that fear in the back of my head that maybe someday my knees are going to explode and I won't be able to recover and I'll have to give up fixed gear. Is fixed gear unsafe? Is fixed gear bad for your knees? Is it sustainable long term? We'll talk about all of that and more as I tell you about my fixed gear injuries. Speaking of my fixed gear, this video is sponsored by Wabi Cycles. To learn more about the bike that I'm rebuilding a habit of biking every day on, and what makes them so good, and what makes me want to ride a Wabi every day, stick around until the end of the video to learn more about them. Is fixed gear bad for your knees? Look, I've been riding fixed gear for the past 12 years. Fixed gear bike is the only bike that I own. No, it's not bad for your knees, but if you do it properly. Anybody that has knee problems, including myself, gets knee problems on fixed gear because they weren't doing it properly. And there's 4 ways that I've been able to observe that fixed gear can be bad for your knees. Number 1 is that your gear ratio is too big for the terrain that you're riding. This doesn't really happen so much nowadays, it seems, but there used to be this idea that the bigger gear ratio you have, the more macho and stronger rider you are, even if you're spinning a 53-11 gear ratio at 15 RPM and just barely keeping up with anybody. But the bigger gear ratio you have, the harder it is, it's going to be on your knees because you have to push more force through your quads and through your hamstrings into the cranks. The big gear ratio problem only gets exacerbated if you are riding more hills. Ideally, your gearing should be low enough that you can get up the steepest hills that you're climbing while still being big enough that you're comfortable on the flats. When in doubt, spinning faster on a lower gear ratio will allow you to get up hills more effectively and also save your knees. You just probably won't get those big monster track thighs. The second fixed gear knee killer is that your saddle is too low. Not only is it less efficient and a lot slower to bike with your saddle lower, it's also bad for your knees because they can't extend fully, and this can lead to knee pain, and this has been my experience when my saddle has been too low. The proper fit's going to be different for everybody because everybody's body is different, and what's comfortable for you may not be comfortable for me. But just know that when your saddle is too low, that can lead to knee pain. Even if just one thing is wrong with your bike fit, it could lead to lots of things being wrong with your posture and your biomechanics on your bike, which can lead to knee pain. Something that I've experienced recently that has led to a little bit of knee pain is that my C-post doesn't have enough setback for my Brooks saddle, and that just makes my fit kind of wonky and makes my knees a little bit achy. The third fixed gear knee killer is that your pedaling technique might suck. We all have our natural tendencies for our feet to be either inwards or outwards, which can lead to knee pain down the line over millions and millions of pedal strokes. Ideally, you want your pedal stroke to be as straight as possible with your knee so that your knee isn't getting twisted into weird angles and wearing down the cartilage at weird angles. Another reason your pedal stroke might have suboptimal technique and lead to knee pain is that your clipless shoes and cleats and the tension on them might be all out of whack and making you uncomfortable over long periods of time. Like, it might not be something that you feel in the moment, but again, if cycling is part of your life, and you're pedaling the bike millions and millions of times, all of that adds up and can lead to knee pain, which is one reason I prefer to ride with straps, because you can wiggle your foot all you want and get into whatever is most naturally comfortable for your foot, and it's not locking your knee into an angle like with clipless. And the fourth and final fixed gear knee killer that I've seen, I hate to say it, but it's skidding, especially if you pull when you skid. I am a puller. Most of my skid power comes from pulling up with my right leg. For some of the people, they can push down with so much might that it skids and locks the wheel. I've personally never been able to do that, so I'm a puller, and especially when you're pulling when you're skidding and you skid a lot, it can lead to knee pain because the knee is supposed to be taking force like this, like when we're walking. But if you are pulling the knee apart, that can lead to bones and joints and muscles and tendons getting all out of whack. This is what happened to my friend Justin, and he recently had to quit fixed gear because he was skidding all the time, pulling up with his right foot all the time, and that led to a lot of knee pain for him. Contrasted to me, I almost never skid unless it's an emergency situation. I've been riding fixed gear for 12 years compared to Justin's 2 years, and my knees are perfectly fine other than the knee pain that I've got from not skidding, and I'll talk about that next. Look, I'm still young. I'm turning 28 in a couple months, but I'm not any spring chick anymore, and I've experienced my fair share of knee injuries because of the fixed gear bike and because of doing things improperly and having to learn things the hard way because not every 16-year-old can afford a professional bike fitter and a personal trainer, nor can a 27-year-old that does YouTube full-time. For a fixed gear rider, a knee injury is one of the scariest things that can happen to you other than getting hit by a car like my friend Matt. Because if your knees are toast, your fixed gear journey is over. So it's super important to do things properly to prevent injuries. It's a lot easier to prevent an injury than it is to recover from one, speaking from experience. And hopefully through my injuries, you can learn what to do and what not to do so that you can ride fixed gear for your entire life. Fixed gear knee injuries are something that happens slowly over time. Again, speaking from experience. Something that has been wrong with your bike or your bike fit or your technique that compounds over millions of pedal stroke. And I mean that, millions of pedal stroke. And it's probably something that you might not even be noticing on a daily basis of riding your bike. And there are things that crop up once you start riding really long, start riding a lot harder too soon, or start doing all of a sudden like skidding every time you need to stop and burning through your rear tires every 2 months. These are changes, whether big or small, that our bodies will eventually complain about in the form of knee pain. My first fixed gear knee injury happened in 2017. Wabi Cycles, yes, that Wabi Cycles was the very first bike that I reviewed. They said they were big fans of the channel and sent me a Wabi Classic for me to review. And I was actually so enamored with the Wabi Classic that I started riding around a lot more than my very own All City Nature Boy that I spec'd and built up myself, just the stock Wabi Classic. And because I was riding so much, I started exploring new routes in San Diego. I started doing a lot more hills on a fixed gear just because it felt so good to do it on the Wabi Classic. But after about a week or two of riding longer distances, all of a sudden, and bigger hills, again, all of a sudden, my knees started to give out. I started feeling knee pain when I was particularly going downstairs. I went to Student Health Services, told the doctor what I've been doing, and he said, yeah, just stay off the bike for a while. And in about a month and a half, the knee pain went away. And that's another thing about knee pain, is that the sooner you catch it and the more you're able to completely recover from it, the better odds are that you're going to be able to completely recover faster, and also get back on the bike again. But yeah, when you're in the middle of reviewing a bike, or you just built up your bike and you're so excited to ride and go all these new places and increase your fitness, it does suck to have to take time off of the bike, especially if it's a month or 2 or 3. But that time will be well worth it because you won't be having knee pain for the rest of your life and have to give up fixed gear for the rest of your life. And my second fixed gear knee injury didn't happen because of riding my bike, but it happened because of workouts that I was doing in addition to riding my bike to make me faster on my bike. I was doing one-legged squats. Let's see if I can do them. This happened just last year. I haven't done one-legged squats since, but oh, yeah, I was doing a set of those on my right leg, and again, because my right leg just prefers naturally to be a little bit tilted inwards, I had bad form. And when you're doing calisthenic workouts, form is the most important thing. If something feels right, if something hurts, you're supposed to stop immediately. It's not like lifting weights where you push as hard as you can go until failure. If you have bad form, that's it. Your set is done. I did not abide by this rule of calisthenics one time last year. And pardon my French, I up my right knee. And having just turned 26 the previous year and being completely off of my parents' health insurance and on crummy public health insurance, which was in California and I was in Michigan at the time. Oh my gosh, the American public health system is a joke. I wasn't able to see a doctor until 3 months later when I was in Taiwan. So I just had to live with the knee pain, ask my physician assistant sister, hey, this happened, and she was able to roughly say what was wrong, and I just had to guess and take it at face value. I started foam rolling, and that helped in the time being before I got to see a doctor. But once I did finally see a doctor, 3 months later, after my injury, he told me that this is so funny, because all my friends joke that I have like giant horse thighs from riding fixed gear so much. But the doctor in Taiwan told me, who was a sports injury specialist that I got medication from as well, all out of insurance for $15, mind you. He told me that because my legs have so much muscle from biking, that these muscles that attach to the knee were actually pulling my kneecap, the patella, to the outside of my body by 1 centimeter, just because these muscles, I'm gonna show you my thighs, I have the excuse, because these muscles were too strong, and then these muscles on the inside of the leg were not strong enough in comparison, so the muscles on the outside were pulling my kneecap to the outside and causing knee pain. Again, 1 centimeter. My kneecap was 1 centimeter, like, out of alignment. If you think 1 centimeter out of alignment is bad for your chainring, it's doubly so for your kneecap. The doctor was telling me that my legs were literally too strong for my own body. It's like, what a backhanded compliment. The doctor prescribed 3 things for me. One was medication, which got rid of some excess fluid that was pooling around my knee. The second thing was stretching every day, which was to loosen up the muscles around the IT band, just doing like this, pushing down on the knee while seated. And even now, I can feel that my IT band is kind of tight. And number 3 was to strengthen the other inside muscles of my legs so that it balances out the super buff muscles on the outside of my thigh just by doing 45-degree squats like this. I also continue to foam roll the muscles that pull on the IT band by doing this foam rolling session from Tone and Titans, because I found that in the past, before I saw the doctor, that was helping, so I must have been onto something. And here I am a year later. I am still experiencing some knee pain, but it has gone away and then come back. And it comes back when I'm riding my bike and not stretching enough and not foam rolling enough. And I am just at the limits with my body where I now need to do these things that I thought was reserved for old people, because my body just cannot handle getting too strong on these muscles anymore. Like, I'm at the limit, otherwise it's going to hurt my knee. But at the end of the day, fixed gear or not, cycling is a low impact activity. It's not like running, where the entire weight of your body is shooting through your knees with each step. You're just spinning in circles. It should be easy on the knees. And if you have knee pain, something is very wrong, and it might be one of those 4 things that we talked about, and you better address it now, because if you don't, you're gonna have to give up fixed gear forever. I'm not trying to like scare you, but like, it's kind of true. Perhaps the second scariest injury for a fixed gear rider is a sprained ankle that just won't go away. And that's exactly what happened to me when I tried riding my bike from Sacramento to San Diego. But that wasn't what did it. My lack of preparation and my stupidity and stubbornness is what sprained my ankle. So back in 2022, in like April, I tried riding, I think it's like 660 miles from Sacramento, my hometown, to San Diego, which is the southernmost city in California. And I had the pressure to do this ride because I got it sponsored before I was even ready by Wabi Cycles. The entire, like, month leading up to my ride, where I was expected to go and start making videos of this ride, I was sick. I was bedridden. I could barely breathe. I was having asthma attacks, and I couldn't ride my bike at all. I couldn't condition myself. I couldn't test out my loaded gear. And when the day came for me to leave to ride to San Diego, I just said, screw it. I made this promise to Wabi, and I'm gonna try hell or high water. And gosh, hell and high water sure did come. This was my first time riding completely loaded with about 30 pounds of gear on my back, as well as like 10 pounds to 15 pounds of gear, I forgot exactly how much, on my bike. And I was also riding in new shoes. So these factors compounded together to just make my bike fit all out of whack. About every 20 miles or so, I only made it like 200 miles into the ride. What a shame. But every like 20 miles or so, I would have to readjust my saddle angle or readjust the saddle height. Just nothing felt right when I was riding my bike fully loaded for the first time. And these are small incremental changes that you're supposed to make when you're just testing out your bike and testing out your kits before you go out on a big bike tour like I was. Because if something isn't right, again, over hundreds of thousands, if not millions of pedal strokes, it's going to injure you, and it sure did injure me. When I got to Half Moon Bay, which, just saying out loud, is already like, that's insane. I rode all the way from here in the Sacramento Valley to the ocean in Half Moon Bay, which is just like this rich resort town on the coast. My left ankle was not having it anymore. It was swelling. It was red. It was hot. I could barely walk, let alone a bike, and every pedal stroke was like searing pain, like somebody putting a hot iron right onto my Achilles tendon. So I sat on the beach. I thought, well, if I keep going, it just gets worse. I looked at the beautiful blue Pacific Ocean, and I called my dad to come pick me up. And again, I didn't see a doctor for this injury. In hindsight, I should have, but maybe it was a good call because I have a cruddy health insurance. And if I see a doctor, they might refer to me to like a specialist, and the specialist will cost thousands and thousands of dollars, which I cannot afford because that is how the healthcare system works in the United States. Because they won't tell you how much things cost until you owe them. Could you imagine if the bike industry worked that way? It's like, how much you want for that bike? Just ride it and we'll tell you how much you owe us. Oh, yeah, that'll be $5,000, thank you very much. But again, I called my sister, who's a physician's assistant. She sent me some things that might be it. And I said, yup, sprained Achilles tendon. Those symptoms exactly are what I am experiencing. And I had to stay off the bike and stretch and nurse my sprained Achilles tendon for the next, like, 4 months. It sucks. Fast forward almost 2 years later, I could ride my bike again. I have absolutely no pain in my Achilles tendon, and it's like the injury never even happened. Although having to stay off the bike and walk kind of funkily kind of sucked. But it's a small price to pay for the lifetime of cycling that I'm still able to get, because something like that very well could have led to other injuries and other biomechanics not working right, and could have led to me having to quit fixed gear for good. So if you do get injured, if you feel that something is wrong with your bike and you riding your bike, stop, get it checked out, and give your body the rest that it needs. Because the glory of completing a 600 mile or 1,000 kilometer bike tour lasts only a few days, but a chronic injury is forever. So do your best to prevent your injury from becoming chronic. Just like how I'm chronically telling you about this video's sponsor, Wabi Cycles. Wabi Cycles has changed my life, and I'm not just talking about the fact that they give me money to say the things that I would say anyway about them, but rather their bikes are actually so good that it's another thing to look forward to when I get on my bike every day. They help reduce the friction that we have and the excuses that we tell ourselves that we shouldn't ride our bikes or that we don't want to ride our bikes, because they are just so dang fun to ride. And part of what makes it so life-changing for me and makes it so fun to ride is that these bikes are meticulously hand-built out of top-tier Reynolds 725 or Columbus Spirit steel. It has a ride quality that just encourages you to want to get on the bike and encourages you to keep pedaling the bike once you are on it. My Wabi is one of my most treasured possessions because it tangibly improves my life. And if you're looking to get one for yourself, be sure to check out Wabi Cycles, linked in the description. And Fixie famous shoutouts to David K, Julian Corona, Brandon Black, Brent David, Mohr, Perez, Onchi, and Brakeless for helping to make these Fixie videos possible through their support on Patreon. And remember that life is short, but don't make it shorter, so be sure to ride your bike every day to be reasonably dangerous.